In this video, I'm looking at a game from Strategy and Tactics, magazine number 189. It is called Charlemagne. And this is all I have. I have the game only. I don't have the Charlemagne magazine that went with it, S&T number 189. But I have all the game components to be able to play it. So I'm going to just review a little bit about this. The game is set up in player turns that represent 5 years each. So the first turn of the game is 771 through 775. So obviously a lot happened in that 5-year period. And the game uses I go, you go. So, and it uses a hex grid on the map, which is kind of unusual. But the first player has a random event phase. And this is mostly revolts or other things that can happen that just kind of throws some chaos into the game. Then there's a stratagem segment where you're collecting stratagems. And then there's a vassalage segment, which represents diplomatic efforts rather than military efforts. The treasury, so you collect your money and you get money basically for the burgs that you have built throughout your empire. Then you can levy troops, and then you have operations, which the operations are really the heart. This is when you activate a stack or a force, is what they are. Determine how many operations points they have, and they just keep going until they use all their points up. And you know, they use their points for each space they move in, for combat, for pillaging, for different things that they want to do. And so, you know, once they're gone, then they're done for the turn. So it's representing 5 years of activity. So you can see, you know, what might happen in this case. And then at the end of your turn, you provision. So you got to look at the forage value, which there's a lot of spaces. But generally, if you practice some, you know, basic housekeeping, it won't be very hard to figure out if you need to spend money to provision people. So that's basically what this game is about. I wanted to talk about the stratagem is one of the things that happens in this game where you collect them. There's various ways that you collect them. Leaders get bonuses on them. But when you win a battle, you get stratagem. And the stratagem are just various markers that represent activities outside of the actual board game that you can bring into effect activities within the board game. So I wanted to share this article with you from Moves number 96. There is a article it starts on page 20, Charlemagne Design Notes by Joe Miranda. So he kind of goes into all of the thought that he put into the game and what he's trying to discuss and why he has chaos such a big part of the system. And I think some of it is that it's 5 years worth of time in one turn, so it's going to appear very chaotic. Then he has a discussion of the combat results table, which is very bloody, but again, the battle is representing 5 years of operations for that group. And he has a section explaining what his idea of these stratagem chits are, and there are a lot of them that come. They're randomly chosen out of a cup. They can be bought with treasury. But it says this on page 24 of this Moves article. Charlemagne uses stratagem markers to represent a variety of military, political, and cultural factors. They give the game a period flavor. So it's not as if you're pushing panzers by another name. Stratagem markers are picked at random and do much to determine a player's strategy. Some of the more esoteric stratagems, such as the Spear of Longinus, do not necessarily represent the actual object named, but rather the ability to make propaganda out of some icon or event. And then he delineates all of these markers, which also include a fair number of leaders that have to be deployed on the owning player's stack when they come out. So this is a good article to keep in mind. It talks about quite a bit about how to play the game in the spirit of the designer behind it. So I'm just going to go through game turn 1 and maybe a little bit more in another video. So stay tuned on this video if you'd like to see turn 1. So this is turn 1 of Charlemagne from Strategy and Tactics. And the first turn of the game represents 5 years of time. It's 771 through 775 during starting with the coronation of Charlemagne. And because the game is I go, you go, and the turns are 5 years of time, you have to kind of wait till the end of the turn and then mesh together what happened to actually see a picture, because it isn't as linear as all this. So in the first player turn, the Empire, the Franks under Charlemagne, did deal with some revolts, and the Republic of St. Peter went from neutral to being allied with the tribes, and Spoleto also went from neutral to being tribal. So we'll see how that plays out. I don't think it was too severe of an effect. But during the Empire turn, I did make a vassalage attempt. I used a number of stratagem markers against Azorius, and this is over in Iberia, or near Spain, and I was able to turn the Asoria into supporting the Empire. So that was successful. I also used the stratagem Ring of Avars, and Ring of Avars, and this was basically used against pagans, but I did do an effort. I launched an effort against Ostmark, which I believe is like East Germany today, but it failed. It was just a no effect. So as the Empire player, I had a leader with some troops from Burgundy move into launching an effort against Lombardy. And the first move went toward Milan, which was defended by an army there. I think it's a 6-4 army. And I said that wrong. It's a 6-12 army. And I ended up having a bloodbath, even though I outnumbered him. So Lombardy lost a 6 strength unit, and Burgundy also lost a 6 strength unit. But because it was a bloodbath, nobody won a stratagem marker, and there was no advance after combat. But I still had operations points left, so the leader entered into Milan and parked there. I also took the opportunity to activate Charlemagne with a large force as well. And Charlemagne crossed the Rhine River, and then out in the open he ran into some Saxon forces. These are tribal forces that were kind of melded together by a tribal leader. And so I did launch an attack. It was a 1.5 to 1 attack, and I got a defender defeated. So the Saxon player lost a 6 strength unit and a 2 strength unit, and then the rest had to retreat, and they did retreat to the east. So anyway, I was able to use more of Charlemagne's operation points to march his force all the way around and outflank the Saxons, and they went right into Bremen. So I was surprised that I left Bremen open, but that's what I did. And then finally, the Empire had a leader called Roland from Provence, and that force marched to meet the troops from Lombardy in Genoa, and there was an attack. It resulted in a defender defeated. So Lombardy lost another 6-12 unit, and it left a 2-6 unit to hold in Genoa. So I had more points left. So Roland and Provence entered a second battle. It was a 4-1 battle. However, it didn't go so well this time and ended up in a bloodbath. So the Lombardy 2-6 unit was eliminated, but I also had to lose a 6 strength unit from Provence. But because the leader had more operations points left, I was able to move into Genoa also. So that kind of worked in my favor. It did cost me a few troops. I had no problem foraging and provisioning everyone, so we just went on to the tribal player's turn. And during the events phase, they did roll up some potential revolts, and I resolved all of them, and no one ended up revolting. So things were fairly stable compared to what they could have been. I used a leader called Graf, which I believe is some sort of like a count or some sort of lord that took military control. And he marched with the Saxons that were left over to Fulda and attacked that burg. Their Austrasian militia was there. I think it was a 2-6 unit. It was easily eliminated. And then I was able to advance after combat in this case. And then I expended operations to actually pillage the burg, which was successful. Then I had Graf continue to move with the Saxons to Frankfurt, where it attacked another 2-6 militia unit, which was also eliminated. And then Graf and the Saxons pillaged Frankfurt as well, and this was successful. And I used whatever was left of his operations points to kind of disperse his force so that they would be in a better position to forage and not have to lose units, because they really didn't have any money. But that's pretty much what happened during the first turn of the game. Again, this is 5 years of time. So we did see the Republic of St. Peter and Spoleto join the tribal coalition, if we want to call it that. But we also saw Genoa and Milan and Bremen fall into the control of the empire. And then two cities, Fulda and Frankfurt, were, two burgs were destroyed and pillaged by the Saxons. So that's what happened this turn. Stay tuned if you would like to see further turns if I do them in this game. Have a great day.